Hello, my name is Mike Watling, and this video is about building an educational tool for somebody who has a disability which could limit them from using a standard keyboard and mouse. Some of you may remember the Lomac keyboard and mouse, which I developed in 2002. Building the Lomac led to the development of this new educational tool, the J-key, which is what the video is about. The J-key is an affordable option to build at home using basic skills. My name is Mike, I'm the developer of the J-key, and I'm going to show you and I'm going to assemble a J-key box, and I'm going to show you all the bits that you'll need, the pieces that you'll need, and how to put it together. You won't need many tools for building a J-key, but I've put a list in anyway. Just improvise. You'll have to pre-cut the wood, but you need 4 pieces, 120 millimeters, 2 long pieces like this. Because we're nailing against that, we put that in there first, flip that over and put it in there. I use the frame when I'm hammering because it's important to keep the rectangle shape. We can put that one in there just to keep things square. Use the inside frame as your guide. Do this on both sides of the centre pieces. Mark out where you're going to drill for the nails on both sides. This makes it easier to hammer the nails in and avoid cracks in the wood. Apply PVA glue to all 4 corners. Just enough. Like that. Yep. I use the frame to hold while I'm hammering because it's important to keep the rectangle shape. Use the inside frame as your guide. For the centre pieces, you need a hole for the wiring. So anywhere will do. It's about 20 mil, 40 mil in from the edge, and big enough to carry the wires that you're putting through. So I'd say a minimum of 15 mil or something like that. Same on the top. And 120 from here. Yeah. So you just have to make sure that the nail holes are on the inside. Do this on both sides of the centre pieces. So once you've drilled all the holes, you can put the centre pieces in and nail them up. So just a bit of glue, both ends. Doesn't need much because it's going to bond with the nails. Don't forget the hole goes in the back, and just slide it in. Make sure everything's square. We've now done the basic shape. The next step is to fit the top panel. First of all, make sure everything is nice and square, and this is the beauty of having the rig. you've got to mark your nail holes. So just mark there and go to the center. Draw a line. Mark there and go to the center. Same. Using your finger. So that's your nail hole. That's a nail hole. Anywhere like that. Just 4 nail holes. That's all you'll need. So don't be too mean with the glue. You can use a pinch punch to sink the nail heads. Now the front panel is on, we need to drill the bottom panel. I always drill a pilot hole first before any holes. The little one. So these holes will depend on the size of the screws that you've got available. So you line that up and put the T on there so that when you put it back, you know it's going to fit in the same place. So one thing to remember when you're building something like this for people with disabilities, that usually their skin is quite soft, so don't leave any sharp edges. So I usually sand and round corners just to make them nice and smooth. So here's one that I've painted, and you don't have to paint it. It looks nice, but just remember that the person who's using it has to look at it every day. Unscrew the bottom panel and mark it so that you know where to put it back. You can imagine, yeah. To stop the unit moving around on a wheelchair tray, I recommend gluing anti-skid on the bottom. Stick it down and cut out the shape. And here's one I've already done. So I've cut around this one now, and you can see that it's a really good non-slip surface for the bottom. What you've got to do now is to just cut out the holes for your screws. So you cut them out of the material. So the next part of the project is to drill the holes for the bump switches and for the joystick. This is the template that we're using, and I'm going to use this to dot punch the holes so it makes it a lot easier for the spade. Tape all the 4 corners of the overlay down so it doesn't move when marking. If you don't have this overlay, you can download a template from the JKey website or mark the drill holes manually from the drawings. It always pays to drill a pilot hole, regardless of what sort of drill you're using, but make the pilot hole quite small. What we need is that template there so that we can drill the holes that it's going to hold the joystick on. So just unscrew the knob, and you may have to hold that shaft, and lift that up and take the template off. That's the template, and there's no top or bottom, it's just the same both ways. You put the template with that hole dead center. So you just mark the drill holes, and center punch them. Countersink the holes for the joystick so the overlay will fit over the screw heads. And it's got to be 20 millimeters because the joystick has got to be able to move within that centerpiece. But do not drill straight through because it'll just leave jagged edges on the inside. So you'll cut it about there and turn it over. And from the back, empty it. 22 millimeters. These are the bump switches here, so you do the same thing. That's just the LEDs now. 14 millimeter. Quickly, if your drill is a good one. After you've finished drilling the placement holes, it should look like this. So the screws that hold the plate on are often too short, and you'll have to match the screws that hold the J key itself. You'll have to match them to the materials that you've got in the cover. But this is called a gate on the back, and that long part of the gate goes to the bottom when you put the joystick in. Put the joystick in with the long piece on the bottom. Pick it up a bit. So grab your template and position it so that it's over the center. Get the template dead center and draw a circle with your pencil, and that's your cutting line. Use scissors to cut out the center for the joystick and line up the overlay. Remember to move the backing from the overlay. When you put the overlay on, you can remove it and replace it 2 or 3 times before it becomes permanent. Smooth it out from the center. After 2 or 3 days, you can't lift it. When you rub the holes for the bump switches and LEDs, you can see the outlines easily, so just use a sharp knife to cut the holes in the overlay. You drill the holes for the speaker with a small drill and then with a 6mm bit. The marks are there for the speaker, and all the holes are for is to let the sound out from the speaker. These little bezels here, they're LED bezels. They fit in there and just make it look good, that's all, for aesthetics. So we've made a box for the J key and we've put the components in, and now we're going to demonstrate the wiring. So as part of the wiring, we've got to install the USB lead, which is 4mm in diameter. So we have to drill a hole in the back, and that hole, to flip the unit over, I just put a sponge on there, and that holds everything together while I flip it. The hole will be 140mm in from the edge and 2mm below that join where the two are. So we'll measure that. So it's 2mm below here, below the join where the bottom is to the base. And I'll just drill a pilot hole first. Now we put the 4mm hole in for the cable. Right. Then we take the bottom off. After you've removed the bottom panel, make a channel to fit the USB cable in with the hole that you've drilled. To mount the Arduino, cut a block of wood the same size and glue it in the right hand area. So we're at the stage now where we want to mount the speaker and mount the Arduino on the block. So you'll see with the speaker there's a positive and a negative, and you'll see the negative is marked on that terminal there. The black wire goes on the negative and the red wire goes on the positive. Pre-wired this one. I soldered those two on, and I put a bit of Velcro on the, just a stick Velcro dot. So to mount the speaker, I've just made a little bracket out of any plastic that is right angle and put it in there with a piece of Velcro on it. So that means with the Velcro, the speaker just clips on there with the Velcro, but it means you can remove it to wire it into the block for soldering. So to mount the Arduino, just put it on the block and mark the two holes with a pencil. Make sure that the USB port is facing where the USB lead is going. So in order to make the wiring easy, I've made a block of wood with lines showing where the wiring is going to go to on the terminals. So not all the terminals are used, and so the block just makes it easy to connect the wires up. So you'll see here, it'll be just a case of plugging in the connectors after we've finished the wiring. This is the first block, A, B and C. A goes there, B goes there, and C goes on the other side. So we'll be around that way. Okay, so we'll do the first one. I use a different color for each So the indication lights are one color and the switching is another color, and the neutrals are all black. You can use any colors you like as long as they're different colors. So that I'm holding the wire with my left hand and the soldering iron with my right hand. I leave this. The first thing you've got to do is tin the wire, which means putting the solder on the wire. There we are, just like that. The second is to tin the terminal. Now this first wire is there, which is 13. Right. It's a little bit too long. Okay, so 13 is the first one. And we just hold the soldering iron on the two together and don't move until it changes color. And that's the first one. To do the wiring, give yourself plenty of wire length. Follow the wiring diagram for the connections. Use a small blob of blue tack to hold the terminals on the wood block, and remember to remove it afterwards. So you can do it in the box, but it just slips in there like that. Don't forget to take off the right, the next one is in there. And the third one goes in there. So just make sure that the ground wires line up with the ground, and the ground wire here lines up there, and the numbers line up. Just a final check. Very hard to get it wrong. Thing is to fit the Arduino. We're wiring the LEDs, and if you look at them, it's got a long lead and a short lead. The long lead is the positive and the short lead is the negative. And we're going to put a resistance onto each LED. That's to protect the LED. So with the long lead, because the LED goes deep inside the bezel, like that, so the long lead needs to be folded over like that so that we can solder the resistance onto it like that. So don't fold it over too close. So about there is fine. So you don't want too much hanging over, and your resistance doesn't need to be very long, like that. Okay. So you tin that. And tin that. You do this for the red, blue and white LEDs. Hold the two together. Wait for it to set. And because that's the yellow, it will go in there. That's it. What we're going to do is loop all the indication neutrals together. So I'm going to go from there to there to there to there to there to there. It's just a chain. Okay, so that's what I'll do. So what I've done here is I've connected the terminals to the various terminals going by this drawing here. So terminals 6 and 7 has gone to the switch here. So we're going to put the USB lead in. So it goes from here through there. So to prevent the lead being pulled out, we'll just put a bit of tape on the inside and the cover will hold it. It just stops it being pulled out through the hole. Put the cable in the correct way. Yeah. And fit that there. So once we've got the USB lead in and we put the back on to hold the cable, the next thing to do is program it. Some people, when they're using the J key, may not be able to grip the knob properly. They may not have any grip at all. So a good way is to extend the knob itself with just cheap materials. So on my right hand is just an ordinary sponge that you use for cleaning the car. One of these. And just cut it out with a knife and scissors. And you cut it to any shape you like. It's easy on the person's hands and it'll be very comfortable. Second option is that's a fishing float, and just cut that out with a sharp knife so that it fits over the knob like that. It's very warm on the hands and very easy and comfortable to handle.